Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Come on and shout it. I talk, you talk, we talk. Women talk life. It ain't no surprise. Baby, you could see if you would open up your eyes. You won't understand if you can't open up your mind. So let's stop wasting time when women talk live.
And welcome to another episode of Women's Talk Live Overnights. What's going on, y'all? This your girl, April J.
I'm your girl, SassyScribe.
And this is K Elle.
And as always, you know we always have some interesting shows for you. Today's topic of today's show is called The Project. Because I think everything going on right now is a project.
We're living in a project.
But we want to get in because I think a lot of people don't really understand what was in Project 25. And I also think people don't understand what's in this so-called big, beautiful bill. Go ahead.
I think people don't understand that Project 2025, Agenda 47, and the 180-day plan are all Project 2025.
Right.
They tried to distract by saying different names, but it's all Project 2025.
Right. All right, so I want to go over some little known facts first, starting up. And what I want to go is some of the things that have already been implemented from Project 25. The first one is the Office of Personnel Management. It was proposed and began implementing a new federal employee category called Scheduled Policy Career, which allows 50,000 policy influencing federal employees to be reclassified as at will, making it easier to remove them without traditional civil service protections. This aligns with Project 25's goal to replace merit-based civil servants with politically loyal personnel while maintaining some competitive hiring processes.
Meaning white men only.
They don't want competitive hiring processes. They want to appoint and nepotize the office.
Right.
Pure and simple.
He really and truly wants to be able to hand down the presidency through his family.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what he wants.
Yeah, he does.
And Congress is sitting on their hands, and the Democrats can't do anything really because they don't have any control or any power. But Republican senators.
Democrats, no.
Well, I'm hoping it will change. I'm hoping it will change if he allows midterm elections in 2026. I think the Democrats will sweep.
I
think they will sweep, and they can course correct all of this. I know that with what happened over the weekend, a couple of weeks ago, what happened with him bombing Iran, Jasmine Crockett immediately formed articles of impeachment, but she doesn't have the numbers. They just don't have the numbers, and that's the sad part.
Right.
And people need to understand history will be watching this.
Yeah. So another one is, and these are really kind of executive orders, and
which can be reversed.
Gender policy rollbacks. Executive orders revoke federal recognitions for transgender people, ceasing federal funding for gender-affirming surgery, restricted transgender military service, and mandate sex-based rather than gender-based classifications for federal documents.
Okay, so another thing the idiot in chief didn't think about, with him scaling back everything regarding that's in Project 2025, it's not just gay people. Gay people were the low-hanging fruit. That was the easiest thing. Right. What Black people need to understand is the goal is us. We are the goal to scale back everything, right? So what he didn't think about is that if he's taking everything away and he wants everything to be merit-based and he's getting rid of DEI, there's not enough white people that are going to fight. If you think about it, the military is very diverse. So what is he going to do? Well, I know a lot of Black and Asians and Hispanics and Muslims. I know a diverse group of people that are still in active duty military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard,
No, but are
National
they
Guard.
officers or are they enlisted? Like, it's a difference when he's
I know
firing
some of them
generals
are
and things of
enlisted
that
and some
nature.
of them are officers.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah.
Is that
now,
because
For
for
now.
the
now.
issue
But
is you don't have, those are the young people that you send front line that you consider disposable. He's a draft dodger himself. And his kids and Congress kids and stuff, they're not the ones who would get, sent to war for whatever, they're starting. And that's the problem. His whole issue in terms of the poor and the have and the have nots and color based, he doesn't care about black or brown. If you're not rich and white, he doesn't give a hell
I think
at
that's
all.
what's going to end up. I think that's the whole concept is that they want rich and the poor. I think their whole goal is to eliminate the middle class.
Classism to
Yes,
the
I
middle
think
class.
he could care less. Of course, he could care less about black and brown people, but he could really care less about low
Poor
income
white
people
people.
too. And that's
Yeah.
Poor white people.
yeah, but it's
Y'all
yeah,
Black too.
because I
But
mean, it's
poor white
just
Damn.
people hang on to the fact that they're still white people. Like, you could be like, poor black people, poor white people. They still consider themselves having the advantage because they're poor white people. They still look,
Hmm.
with that
But then
advantage. And they don't understand. He don't give a hell about that.
no.
with Project 2025, they're going to feel it too, especially in these rural areas in Arkansas and Mississippi and Tennessee and
Hmm.
Kentucky, these red states
Yeah,
that they deem as God's country.
of
You know what I
course.
mean? Like the guy walked off to the set of Saturday Night Live a few weeks ago and said he was going back to God's country as if New York City or New York is an ungodly place when all of America is God's country.
Sure.
That's that mindset that they have, and they're going to have their hospitals closed. They're going to lose a lot of things that they really don't understand that they need,
Oh yeah,
like
but
FEMA.
I think some people are starting to understand that. Some people are.
Not quick enough.
Not quick
Not quick
enough.
enough.
Not quick enough. But
Not quick enough.
Well, when you
another
look at
one.
the farmers had to go to him. Now he's like, he won't do ice raids on farms and things of that nature. But think of how much the mass deportation has cost just regular individuals. Like, you snatching people off the streets. I'm so surprised that somebody hasn't, especially in a carry state, hasn't shot somebody who was an ICE person, because they in plain clothes, they jump out, they grab these people. Like, who's to say you're not kidnapping somebody? Like, it's
Mm,
insane the
I
things
think
they've
it's a
done.
perfect. I think it's a perfect ruse. Hear me out, for sex traffickers and
Oh, that
human
all day.
trafficking.
oh
I
yeah.
Where them
think
kids at?
because the way these people are not identifying themselves, and I think it'll be different if they had. Because I've read today online that they said maybe they need to get the cartels to come to America and start dressing as ICE and snatching random white folk off the street.
Oh,
And as somebody responded to that, said it won't work. You'd have to kill a dog for white people to sit up and take notice.
yeah.
Um.
I'm not condoning the violence,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
understand. I
Yeah.
understand the mindset.
Right. I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
And nobody, can you imagine though what it's like to just be going about your day, or you have to pick up your kids in the evening and somebody's taking you off the streets and putting you somewhere you don't have a phone call. There's nobody you can call. There's nobody who's going to be able to find you. They're putting them in these locations. Like, this is horrible. This is so scary. And then you leave kids with no adults. Even all those kids that they took a few years ago. Where are them kids at? That you had in cages. Where those kids at? You talking about you
No.
don't know where
They
these
to this
babies
day.
at? I
To
know
this
where
day,
they
they
at.
don't know. They have no. They have
I
no
know where
idea
they
where
at.
those kids
They in
are.
these people houses cleaning their stuff, raising their
Yup,
kids.
yup.
That's where they at. They in these sex traffic rings. They being passed around. Yes, that's what's happening.
Right.
That's
And people need
exactly
to
what's
But
understand
happening.
that a kid
yeah.
don't just disappear. What the hell?
Yeah. I
I'm
know.
sorry.
They're
A friend
modern
of
day
mine.
slave catchers. That is exactly what they are. And I
Yeah,
believe
Yeah.
exactly.
with my whole chest and whole heart that ICE, these people masquerading as ICE, are the Proud Boys. They're those white Christian nationalist men. Because these men are 300 pounds, can barely walk, and they
And
didn't
they
like the mask during
authorized
COVID,
religious
but they love their
certification.
mask now. I hope every last one of them get doxxed.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Here in Maryland where we are, a friend of mine who's director of Head Start, they have things in place where if ICE comes into the neighborhoods, which a couple of times they have sent notifications out to parents and say, hey, listen, you can delay bringing your child because there has been sightings of ICE in the neighborhood. And then what they did is they started coming when people are coming to pick up their kids. So they put things in place where they could get out through another
Entry,
entrance, well, through another, exit out
exit.
in a different door, just so that they won't be confronted. So it's like you have some states and you have some people that are taking measures to keep them from snatching these parents, because that's what they're doing. They're
Mhm.
snatching these parents, and then then Head Start has these kids, and they're like, okay, where are they gonna go?
It was shameful.
I have
It really
a
is.
I have a relative that works at social services,
Mm,
and she said wherever they leave, they pick up the parents, they leave the kids. So they're picking
mm,
kids up in the
Mhm.
supermarket,
right.
they're picking kids up on side of the road. It's so inhumane
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
that it's hard to believe that they literally don't see the
This is
blacks,
America.
the LGBT, anybody that's not a white heterosexual male as a person. And it's mind boggling to me that 70 million people were okay with this. And as far as the farmers, fuck them,
Mm-hmm.
because you voted
Exactly.
for this.
Yeah,
You voted
Just
to
yep.
they
decimate
voted
your
for it.
business.
They did.
They voted to decimate their business,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had to go hat in hand. Please, sir, please
Right.
stop. We need
Mhm.
to
That's
do.
a large
Right.
Spanish population that had to,
They need
to
to raid
swallow up and be
Mar-a-Lago's
like,
ass and
Mm-hmm.
we thought
Bedminster.
it was
That's where
okay,
they at.
and now look. Now
Yeah.
they crying because they didn't think it would happen to them and they people. But yes, you can't
Right.
just because you got a little money and a little status, it doesn't change
Cry
who
harder.
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one final one. Death penalty expansion. An executive order directing the DOJ to seek the death penalty in cases involving murder of police officers and crimes by illegal aliens, and to ensure lethal injection of supplies, advancing Project's 2025 capital punishment goals.
The goal is to make
So,
America white when the world is melanated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
not
That, I
just
mean,
white.
that's it.
They
The
want
goal is to
that
make them
whole
white.
hierarchy. He wanted to be where everybody who doesn't have money is subservient and servitude to everybody else. When you don't want to educate, when you don't want to feed kids in school, when you don't want to give programs, when you don't want to give disability, you're not trying to help anybody but create a whole capitalistic society where the
Hmm.
rich get richer, the poor get poor, and they're inundated and obligated to work very hard for very little. And
Right.
that's the system that he wants in place.
Right.
That's the system they want in place. And that is Project 2025's first
Exactly.
180 days. They have implemented everything
Mm-hmm.
from the man who said, I don't know anything about it. I don't have anything to do with Project 2025.
Well, I mean,
And 70
the guy
million
that
idiots
authored it,
believed him.
is working in his administration.
Void, void,
So I mean,
void, teal. I
yes,
mean, Stephen Miller is the architect behind these ICE raids.
right,
This man, if
exactly.
you listen to the people that knew Stephen Miller as a child, this is his wet dream come
Mm-hmm.
to life. Can you imagine? He's sitting rock hard like this every
Mm-hmm.
time he sees an ICE raid. And
Right.
he even, when you look at Stephen Miller, now, first of all, white women, I need to ask y'all a question. How do you lay down and let a man like that penetrate you? How does he even get close enough to you to have a conversation that would lead to penetration? I'll wait, because he looks like the devil to me.
Oh
His
yeah,
eyes are black. He looks soulless.
he does. He does. He
Y'all
absolutely
about to get
does.
my pressure up. All
Well, I did want to
Alright,
mention
so
part of the 2025, the abortion part, because they have the young lady in Georgia, I believe it is, that they still have on life support so that they can have her
yeah,
baby come to term. And
right.
a lot of people are just like, that's only really because they want to affirm this whole feasibility and viability of fetuses
Mm-hmm.
so they can go back to this non-abortion, this handmaid's tale view of you have to have this baby no matter rape, incest, no
Mm-hmm.
matter life threatened of the mother. You just want to create these populations of people who are under your control, but you don't want to take care of them. You don't give a hell about her baby
You
because
know,
you
yeah,
cutting
not
head
that
I also think it's an experiment to see. Let's just hear me out. Because they're really worried about the decimation of the white race. And as long as
start.
white women like sleeping with everything but white men, you're gonna have a non-melanated race. But I think it's any white woman that could be on life support of childbearing age. If this works, they'll just make more.
But you know, I not that I want anything to happen to this baby, but what happens if that baby born and dies? Then what?
It was born. That's all they gotta say. The
That's
baby
all they
gotta be
gotta
born.
say. That's
Yeah,
all
but
they
I
gotta
mean,
say.
Has
okay,
to be
so
born.
if this is an experiment, you just what going to do what? Because this is a black woman that's having a baby. So if the baby
No, but
turns
it's
out
about the
healthy,
fact.
I
But it's
mean,
about the viability of the fetus. They're trying to
Fetus.
say when
Yep.
they be talking about life begins at conception, they're saying if they take her off life support and the baby dies, that proves that the baby isn't viable to live without the mother. That the baby is dependent upon the mother. It's not viable on its own. It doesn't have its own autonomy. However, if this woman who's incapacitated can bring this baby to term, then what they'll say is, regardless of the status of the mother, the baby was still a viable birth. The baby had rights, so on and so forth, and they can make the stance that the baby's rights begin at conception. So
What if the baby,
that's
and I'm saying, what if the baby starts to
that's the
deteriorate?
lead.
that's my whole
Oh,
point. That's my whole
Not
point.
that, not that, the baby, what if the baby stops growing? What if
Yes.
something,
Yeah.
God forbid, I'm not wishing, I'm not praying,
Right.
I'm just throwing out different scenarios as to
oh, I
what could
understand.
possibly happen to
Right.
this fetus. What if the baby is term
Right.
and it's deformed in some
Yeah.
way?
And that's my thing. Like this woman, technically,
It's dead.
they're dead.
She's
So
dead. Yeah.
you're having this fetus grow inside of a dead woman that you are basically keeping alive by machines.
Mhm.
I
Hmm.
mean, at some point, like who, who's to say what's gonna be of this baby?
And the thing that really gets me is that they've taken away the rights of everyone, her parents, her husband.
Hmm.
No one has
Yes.
rights over this body. The
Right.
state has taken control of
Exactly.
this body.
Right.
And the people in Georgia, again, y'all effed up because you had a choice. You could have had Stacey Abrams.
Mm-hmm.
Even for those of you that don't like Keisha Lance, what
Right.
is it, Keisha Lance Bass? Even
Right.
for those of you that don't like her, y'all had viable choices that could have avoided
Mm-hmm.
this, and instead you chose big back, beach built, bad built, butch body, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Y'all
Yeah.
chose her.
Right.
Y'all chose her. You
Yeah.
had Ossoff, which you did really well. You had what's the pastor's name? Um,
Oh,
oh God, I
Warnock.
can't. Yeah,
Raphael
you had
Warnock.
Warnock, but you
Mm-hmm.
need more. And then and the current governor wanted a pat on the back because he defied Trump in some way, shape, or form. But he, just like the rest of the Republican governors, are all aligned with this. It's about the preservation of whiteness. And the other thing that people aren't talking about is the seven mountain states. That's a whole nother Christian nationalist movement, but all of those align with Project 2025. It's about whiteness. So whiteness is if you look at what is it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs and whatnot, and you get up to self-actualization,
Mm-hmm.
they want to self-actualize as white people, and everything else falls, and blacks are at the bottom. Latinos are above us. Then you have Asians. And then you probably have gay because they're white gay people who also voted for Trump, which I, I
Yeah.
don't understand the constant need of voting against your rights and the things that help you.
Because they said that okay, a lot of states started passing constitutional laws and stuff. So I don't know.
That's our next poll question.
Yeah. Um.
Between the Democrats and the Republicans, what policy has the Republicans instituted that has enhanced your life in any way, shape, or form, as opposed to the things that the Democrats did?
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to see.
So um Oh, I didn't realize we had lost KL. Okay.
Oh my
So I
God.
want to kind of switch gears a little bit.
Okay. We got.
Uh, I want to kind of talk about this big, beautiful bill. Hopefully, Kim can
I'm with
rejoin
it.
us. I know she's out. Um,
Right.
but
Kim is
in
a
this,
busy, busy, busy
she
shepreneur.
is, she is. So, and this is the day. Listen, we record this live, so
Right.
all right. So let me add her back in. There we go. All right. So in this big beautiful bill, some of the tax policy changes is let's see. The Senate version poses a smaller permanent increase to the child tax credit. Is that me? Oh,
I think it's Kim.
yeah, yeah. All right. So, um, permanent increase to child tax credit, raising it to $2,200 per child, with inflation adjustments after 2025. The House version would temporarily raise it to $2,500 per child for 25 through 28, then revert to 2000. And then here's the biggest thing, which is the SALT everybody talks about. SALT deduction, the Senate keeps the cap on state and local tax deduction at 10,000, much lower than the 40,000 cap in the House bill. This move has I guess frustrated a lot of House Republicans with high tax states. Um and then here's the other thing with tips and overtime deductions. The Senate limits deductions for tipped income and overtime pay, whereas the House allows more generous temporary deductions. Um,
But the
then
tip thing, this is
mhm,
the thing. The tip thing that Kamala Harris was talking about was for service industry workers. So
mhm,
this tip thing will also be enacted with um, the venture capitalist firms.
mhm.
They
Okay.
don't need it.
No.
The service workers need it.
Yeah, the tips, but the overtime is more. They added in the overtime.
Yeah, but then companies will just stop giving overtime.
Yeah. Well, that's
They're
true.
just, I mean,
They just
there's
stop.
more than one
Yeah.
way to skin a cat. And it's
Yeah.
one thing that we learned with this man when he ran in 2016 and the redo, the 2.0 version, is that it's all about the money.
Mhm.
It's all about the money.
Yeah. And here's another one because another big thing is Medicaid and healthcare. So, Medicaid funding and eligibility, the Senate imposed deeper Medicaid funding cuts and stricter eligibility requirements than the House. Work requirements are included with exemptions for certain vulnerable groups. The Senate also increased eligible checks and documentation requirements. And another one is provider tax cap. The Senate slightly relaxes House constraints on the provider tax used by states to draw additional federal Medicaid funds and move supported by rural hospitals.
Uh,
And not to mention, the Senate proposes a $5 trillion increase to the debt ceiling compared to the House billion, 4 trillion.
any
Debt increase.
increase in the debt ceiling that Trump already added to that Biden reversed. Remember when Trump got in office, he had a
Right.
surplus. Obama gave him a surplus, and
Oh,
as
of course.
Republicans normally do,
Of course.
they fuck it up, and
Yeah.
then a Democrat comes in and fixes it, and now we have another
Right.
thing, which is why him and Felon Musk were all the girls were fighting. It was delicious.
Yeah, that
It
was
was
fun.
delicious for a
That
minute,
was that was
but then Elon
hilarious.
fell in line because he realized Trump has control of those government contracts for those companies.
Yeah, he had a look at here conversation.
Yeah, he was like, listen, as he was shitting on himself.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
I like the fact
Um
we're a podcast. I can say shit in other
yes,
words. Okay.
absolutely. Yes, this is open ended. Yeah, so those are some of the things that are in the bill. And mind you, they wanted to have this signed by July 4th. It looks like that may or may not happen. So we'll see. We'll see.
I think the cuts to Medicare, because you notice there's no more conversation about Social Security because his base is Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Medicare and Medicaid is also beginning to make people sit up and take notice. And the fact that you said that the rural hospitals are okay with it is just, y'all are going to be the first ones to lose the cuts and
Yeah.
close.
I mean,
Like,
they're
how can
already
you be okay
affecting.
with this?
Yeah, it's already affecting them now because I mean, you have certain places where they don't have. They have to. People have to go miles just to get to a hospital.
So basically, y'all up in Appalachia and in the mountains in Arkansas are going to.
Right.
They don't care if you die. Who was that? Who was that senator that just had a town hall and somebody said something about people are just dying, and this bitch goes, "Well, we're gonna die anyway." Like, if
Right.
y'all don't vote her out in the midterms, then you deserve her to tell you that you're going to die anyway.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the problem. Republicans see an issue, but they always fall in line. And
That's correct.
Democrats see an issue, but we got to fall in love. And I think it's time we started falling in line. Because this infighting they got going on between David Hugg and the DNC, all of that needs to stop because we really need to engage young people. We saw a few weeks ago the No Kings protest where 5, 7, 8 million, whatever the number was, across the nation. Mind you, the 92% of us that voted in November of 2024 was sipping our
You
tea
you know
and
what?
shopping.
You know what? With that, I want to kind of go back to the Elon Musk thing because for me, I don't think that I think Elon had a lot to do with Trump winning.
He did.
I'm really starting to think
I think
that
Starlink
okay,
finagled the
I
voting
do.
machines.
So I mean,
And
because now there's a thing where people are saying, did Kamala Harris really maybe won?
she did win.
So
But we
it's
didn't
like,
storm the Capitol mad about it.
yeah, I don't know.
Here's
It
the other
just,
thing. Here's the other thing, because as Kimberly was saying, that they these Congress people and them, they get this free Medicare and free healthcare. So they don't care about it. They get free healthcare for life.
yeah,
So they really and truly don't care about it. But
yeah,
getting back to Kamala winning, we also got to think about those ballot boxes in those blue states
hmm,
that were set on fire.
yeah, right,
Those votes were never counted.
never, yeah,
They'll never be recovered. So
right,
I do believe, and I listened to this young boy the other day on I don't know if it was TikTok or Threads or something, but he was doing a basic map showing that Kamala would have gotten 286 electoral votes
hmm,
and Trump would have only got like two. He would have still got electoral votes, but it wouldn't have gotten him to the presidency the
right,
way it would have Kamala. And they just showed the different maps. Because when I looked at that map, I said, no way all of these states voted red.
right,
So we know
right.
Elon had something to do with it.
Oh, I do. I
Anytime,
honestly do.
anytime they all won down ballot, Democrat won every seat down ballot. But then they voted for Trump. That shit didn't make sense.
Right now, I don't think so. I don't think so either. I don't
I
think so
can't
either.
hear Kim. I hear static.
Oh. So, oh, okay. Oh, okay. I was just like, okay, that's Kim. um, uh, so, Sassy, can you let us know like what else in Project 25 that's in there that people may not know about?
Okay, so they're gutting abortion access. The plan is to revive a 19th century law, the Comstock Act, which is ban any abortion medications and materials preventing materials from being sent through the U.S. Postal Service, and the reversal of the FDA's approval of mifepristone. Right? They're already doing the one plan of mass deportations. They're
Mm-hmm.
targeting immigrant communities, immigrant brown and black communities. So those Russians, those Ukrainians, they put 30,000 Ukrainians in where? In Chicago. They're not going into these areas that we know, like Chinatown,
Right.
that they have a lot of people that overstay their welcome, these
Right.
Indians that are over here, these Turkish people. So anybody that is actually brown and black adjacent, they're targeting those people. They want to end birthright citizenship. Black people, listen up, because that affects us.
That
That's
should
how
affect
we,
everybody. Ain't none of us here.
it should affect everybody, but white people are going to be exempt, but it should, birthright citizenship is going to affect all of them. They plan to
What
separate families.
Paul Mooney said, the Native Americans wish everybody would go home. So
They do.
Yeah.
So they want to separate families, and then they want to dismantle the asylum system.
But that's a
The other one,
constitutional law. That's something that,
right.
yeah.
And everything that they really and truly want to do should be a constitutional resolution, but they're able to get away with it because no one is checking him. Another one is unleashing undue force on protesters. So remember when the Black Lives Matter protest was happening in 2017, 2018?
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to know if he could bomb or like open fire on the Black Lives Matters protesters. So he wanted, which would violate the First Amendment, to target journalists and protesters, because I think Trump had something to do with that one journalist a long time ago getting killed in Saudi Arabia. I really do. I think Trump had something to do with that, because the man was writing negative things about him. But we'll never know. They dismantle the guardrails that prevent the president from abusing executive power. They're doing that. This is all being done already. So this was initially in the plan. Severely limiting access to voting. So now we see these strict voter ID laws, which take us back to Jim Crow era, poll taxes and all of that. Another abuse of executive power to interfere in our elections by criminalizing it in a way. You can't criticize him. They want to put the 10 Commandments in school, which violates the separation of church and state. They want to be able to make Christianity the national religion for the nation. It's just a lot. It's a lot. They want to, critical race theory. They want to limit censoring critical discussions in classrooms. So critical race theory, anything about slavery, anything about anything that makes white people look bad in a negative light, they want to be able to get rid of. So it's really going to be incumbent upon not only the Black community, but any community, the Latino community, the Haitian community, the Asian community. You're going to have to be like the Jewish community and never forget and remind those coming under us what actually our history is. Because if we don't, they definitely won't. They want to whitewash the United States of America when it is a melting pot. People come here for a reason. But you know what? I'm telling my friends overseas, don't come over here. Don't. The Florida has already lost a few $billion in tourism.
Yeah. Well, they can't. Oh man. All right. Yeah, this is definitely a more in-depth discussion. We just want to kind of do an overview. But yeah, man, time goes by fast.
Yes, it does.
But really I want to kind of get into last week's poll, which we did on entrepreneurship. So we wanted to list what are the 3 challenges you face as an entrepreneur. And the first one was economic uncertainty, which is understandable, very understandable. The second one was rising costs. Of course, with all the tariffs in place, it's always rising. And then workforce challenges. Of course, we just talked about a lot of deportations. A lot of people depend on these workers. And I mean, they want to do jobs that we as Americans don't want to do. But hey. And so our next week's poll, as we know, a couple weeks ago, Trump decided, or whatever to bomb Iran.
Unsanctioned by Congress.
Yes. He
We're in
never.
a full-on
They
dictatorship, y'all.
Yeah, they did a press conference saying they notified Congress
No,
right
they didn't.
after it happened.
Right.
Okay.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. So, our poll for next week is: do you agree with Trump bombing Iran? Yes or no? Simply, yes or no. Do you think? I mean, do you feel like it makes
He
it
should be
more
impeached
safe or less
immediately.
safe?
He should
You
be
know.
impeached immediately just by going around Congress. He should be impeached immediately.
Mhm.
And to go back to what you were saying about the jobs Americans don't do, for you good old boys that lost your job and you don't have no farm workers, you can go down to Louisiana and pick blueberries for $5 an hour for 17 hours a day.
There you go. There's a
But
job.
now, just think of
There's a
how
job.
they're getting rid of all consumer protection agencies, the EPA, the
Hmm.
FDA, US. They want to get rid of all the things that make it so the American public. They had an E. coli outbreak and try not to tell anybody. Like,
Then wait a
who
minute, E.
does that?
coli, they've had listeria and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Anything that protects the people, they want out. Anything
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
protects big business, big companies,
They
they all for that.
Yeah. They want
mm-hmm.
out. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for joining us today. As always, make sure you check us out every Tuesday at 5 a.m. We always have something interesting to talk about. So my final thought for today: there are 3 groups of folks that spend other people's money. First
Children.
is children. Second is thieves. And then there are politicians.
Facts.
All right, y'all. This your girl April J.
I'm your girl SassyScribe.
This is K Elle Boogie.
All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Women talk, women